Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
Yeah, these go to 11.
It's time to take an inside look at those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have a futurist and leading expert on artificial intelligence and other next-generation technologies. He is the author of Own the AI Revolution and works with the United Nations, which uses AI to solve issues like poverty, homelessness, and more. Thrive Loud listeners, we're going to have an engaging conversation with Neil Sahota. Neil, how are you today?
I'm doing awesome, Lou. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. And I love when I get to kind of like geek out about the future, about what's going on now, and get to somebody that deals with the stuff every day. What I love to do to kick things off, Neil, do a little rewind, if you could, of your career and what you've been working on so that we can get to this point that you're focused on now. AI has been around for a bit, but how did this become your main gig that you're focused on?
Honestly, Lou, it was kind of by accident, probably like a lot of people. I was working as a management consultant for a bunch of global Fortune 500 companies. I'm always the guy that likes to solve the problem more generally than just a specific one in hand. So developed a lot of IP, and I had gotten a lot of patents around something I called enterprise intelligence. Basically, could machine look at data and actually think for itself and come up with some insights. And that sparked a call from IBM R&D one day asking about my work. And next thing I know, I'm working on a secret project called Watson. That's my foray into AI.
So it's, by the way, really funny. I actually know someone, we'll talk about this afterwards. We'll bring him up towards the end of the show. I know someone who was part of that Watson team, so we'll talk about that. But I also was a huge Jeopardy fan, and that was one of my favorite components when Watson was up there playing Jeopardy against some of the best. So let's take it into your own opinion of where things are going. We always joke about AI. The worst case scenarios of AI, obviously, were formulated in every dystopian movie, from the Terminator to where things are going, to obviously some really functional things of where we're at. And I also love that you have an angle on this, which is trying to solve problems to help the world. Let's talk about that. Today, where we are right now, not the future, what are some of the key initiatives that you have a purview in and you're seeing where AI is actually doing really good things, not, dystopian, replacing jobs or killing people or any of that stuff? Let's talk about how it's really helping us and helping the planet.
I would love to, because in the United Nations AI for Good initiative, which I helped start, we actually have 117 active projects going on right now around the Sustainable Development Goals. And one of the more interesting ones is in a field we call artificial empathy, where even though the machine, they don't feel the emotions, they're actually really good at recognizing that in people and dynamically responding. And so before the pandemic, the biggest illness in the world was actually loneliness. And about 40% of the world suffered from moderate to severe loneliness. And so we actually went about building this, using AI to build technology like chatbots and avatars and things to give people that do feel lonely a chance to engage in a safe space. So not a substitute for human relationships, but give them an outlet that they could feel comfortable, not feel being judged, and build their confidence up so they felt like they had some sense of belonging that would be a stepping stone towards actually developing more normal human relationships.
Almost like a precursor to that movie Her, I keep thinking about, with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson, right? Like a voice relation. But you said something really interesting before the pandemic. I would actually probably argue that maybe that's even more amplified now. Is loneliness would still be probably one of the biggest issues because we're so separated with all the issues that the pandemic has brought us. Is that true?
Unfortunately, it is. I think
Yeah.
there's more loneliness and there's more mental health issues going on. We've seen stress, anxiety, depression, addiction, domestic violence, child abuse, all unfortunately on the rise. And we're social animals at the end of the day. I hate to say, as humans, we don't function that well when we don't have that natural sense of connectivity and bonding.
Yeah. Neil, I do this work with a lot of marketing companies that are trying to understand emotions with AI. This is a big field that everyone's trying to understand, really understand how to tack into how you're feeling and appropriately messaging you with maybe, what you might want to buy based on your state of mind or where you're at. Something everyone's been trying to get around that variable, as opposed to just telling you maybe what you need based on your behavior of what you've looked at. I'm thinking about what you've been working about in the past. Are you crossing those bridges in the commercial world from some of the other worlds which are trying to help people, but also trying to target and message to people?
Yeah, 100%. So I've actually been advising several companies on how they can tap into this technology to do individualized marketing and sales. And I've been working with a company called Sahota AI, who I've helped them develop an AI engine that taps into psychographics and neurolinguistics. Big words, but I'll explain real quick.
Yeah.
And essentially understanding people's behaviors, their hobbies, their interests, even the word choice they use. All these are kind of gleamed insights that AI is very good at kind of detecting, parsing, and then figuring out, what are your hobbies and interests, but what are your values? How do you learn? What do you care about? And what's the best way to engage with you? Even down to, rather than say help, you should use supports with this person because that'll resonate better. And so if you can imagine that suddenly you teach every marketer the ability to speak that person's specific language and target to their values and what triggers their buying behavior, very powerful stuff.
Own the AI revolution. Talk to us about the book that you put together here, and I guess how we can take action to own what's going on in this space. What are you mostly focused on in the book?
The book is for non-technical business leaders. I had seen working with all these companies and nonprofits and government agencies that they had the same kind of questions, and they were kind of sitting back waiting for the technologists to tell them what to do. The truth, Lou, how many technologists no matter how smart they are, understand the pain points of a marketer or a lawyer or a doctor, right? And so the book is really geared for those people to help them understand a little bit about what AI is and what it's not, but more importantly, how they can actually use AI in their businesses to answer those questions and give them those first tactical steps to figure out something they can do to add value for their organization.
This is going to be a tough question because this is totally an opinion from your perspective, but I'm curious, and I think our listeners would be too. Who's doing AI really well in business today, and who is not necessarily doing such a good job with it? And I mean this from in utilizing it to help organizations grow versus ones that are kind of dibbling and dabbling and not necessarily, using it for the best experience and maybe distancing humanity, if you would, from the way that they can connect. That's the comparison I'd love for you to share.
Interesting question, Lou. I have to say it's probably actually a tie in who's using it the best. And that's definitely digital marketing as well as healthcare. Digital marketing has been definitely a vanguard. They were one of the first to actually really rush out and say, we want to do this, which is why I always tell a lot of people now that if you're thinking about AI, you're kind of about 3 years behind the curve. There's still opportunities and leapfrog opportunities, but you got to get going, otherwise you're going to get left behind. Healthcare, just because there's a pressing need, it was before the pandemic even, with a global population that's aging. But on the flip side, it's interesting that law and actually accounting, where you can see actually a lot of immediate use, were very slow to adopt, and there's been some resistance.
Well, and you came from consulting. I guess we could see where that resistance could be, in the sense that that people get paid by human hours, billable from lawyers and, whatever number of CPAs or contractors you need from consultants.
Yep.
I could see that being a challenge or a hurdle to climb.
Well, for sure. But, the only things in life that are guaranteed are death, taxes, and change. And whether I think the lawyers or accountants like it or not, they were already feeling pressure from their clients about moving to more of a fixed price model. And this is accelerating that trend. And, adapt or die, as they say. The smart law firms have already started making this change.
Neil, as we look to these problems you're helping with the UN, and by the way, that loneliness factor really, really sharp. Some of these other issues, poverty, homelessness, maybe give a little foray into what you're doing or what AI is doing to address these issues so people can understand the angle at which you're tackling it.
Well, let's talk about poverty and homelessness. So homelessness in particular, everyone always thinks that, well, we just need to get them jobs, right? If we get them a job, a little upskilling, they'll be all right. But we forget that a lot of these folks, they're not in the best of health either. After, I forget it's a couple of months, your health really declines. And so using AI wasn't just so much about trying to help them get jobs, that's part of the equation, but helping kind of crunch all that data, help us understand that we got to solve some of the more basic needs, the Maslow hierarchy. And what we've learned is if you can give them even cheap housing temporarily, that actually incentivizes them to go see a doctor and do some small things to improve their health. And then after they do that, then they're more open to actually getting upskilled. And so using AI and some of these like neurolinguistics, we can actually find the right trigger points or motivations for them to take some of these first steps, to agree to kind of this, free housing plan for a few months, then see the doctor, and then they're more receptive to some training and actually improve their chances to get a job.
Very cool. I like that. And tackling that humanity angle from using AI to measure and figure out what the right angle is to go at this. Very neat. I like how that's going. Are you enjoying that work?
I am. I'm a big believer of social good, and my personal goal in life is to try and leave the world at least as good as I found it, if not better. And that's why I'm always advocating, AI for good, as well as just social enterprise. Look, nothing wrong with making money, but we never really trained ourselves to think, can I make money and do good at the same time? Can I find those opportunities? I think
love
we
it.
can.
And with that mindset, Neil, you fit why you're on the program here. On most days, you're kicking on all cylinders and you're thriving. However, we all have our days when we're not quite on our A game and we're a little off. I love asking guests on this program, Neil, this question. Neil, when you have trouble thriving, what practice do you seek or what individual do you seek out to get yourself back on the thriving track?
It's a great question. And I do two things. One is I step back from things because I've learned that you can't see the forest from the trees. And sometimes you need to step away and disengage briefly to kind of refresh, recharge, and then seek advice. Look, none of us are an island, and none of us know everything. And sometimes just a fresh perspective or just someone listening to us helps us kind of work through things. And I found by taking that pause, and it was a hard thing to learn, a hard thing to do, that's made a huge difference in me being able to thrive.
Neil, let's do the admin part of the show. If you could share with the listeners all the places people can find you, websites, social media, whatever URL you want to direct us to. We will put it on the show notes, but it always gets more engagement when they hear it directly from you.
Well, awesome. I would love to hear from everybody. You can always find me and what I'm up to on my website, which is just my name, neilsahota.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. So, of course, LinkedIn is my name. My handle for Instagram and Twitter is @Neil_Sahota. You can find my book at all major book retailers, including like Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And I do encourage everyone to check out the United Nations AI for Good, which I'm very active in. Just Google United Nations AI for Good. You'll see the website pop up.
Spectacular. Neil, I got a good one for you here. You ready to go down Fun Street?
Let's do it.
All right. By the way, I love your pictures on your Instagram here of some of the great causes and things around the world. Really on brand and very cool. Checking it out right now while I'm here. Okay. So on Fun Street, let's share with the listeners, can you please, because I have a at a preview of this. You share with the listeners your all-time favorite movie.
My all-time favorite movie, it's probably a little bit of a tie, but I love Yojimbo and Citizen Kane.
Okay, well then someone answered incorrectly on your sheet for you because the one they put down was War Games.
I do love the movie War Games, and I suspect I know why they said that, because I've been encouraging everyone to watch that. A lot of people talk about the weaponization of like AI, and that's definitely a concern, because I think we all know that probably some military use is going on. But if you've never seen War Games, it's a classic with Matthew Broderick and Ali Sheedy from the 80s about what happens if we entrust machines with our military, especially our nukes, and how do we teach them the dangers of doing that. The machines can learn, and I won't spoil it for everybody, but it's definitely worth watching.
It without a question is a wonderful lesson. It was probably one of the first AI movies, actually, that really talked about how computers can learn and how it's learning, which was a really cool concept. Anyway, but those other movies are classics too, by the way. What was the other one? Citizen Kane, and what was the other one?
Yojimbo, Akira Kurosawa.
Yeah, that's good. Those are good flicks. Entertaining. Why do those movies connect so much with you?
I'm a guy that really loves like really great plots and characters. I mean, War Games has that, but there was something that really resonated with me about both those movies. They're both kind of like, I hate to say this, a bit of a loner and trying to figure out their place in the world. And no matter what they do, there's this weird ripple effect or backlash. I mean, there was a great line, Citizen Kane, where the main character says, I might have been a great man if I weren't a rich man. And it was actually so true.
It is funny because I have rewatched it. I think it's all such critical acclaim, and it's difficult when you watch these movies from older times, because there's so much technology now in a lot of movies that makes the movies even more appealing. But when it's a really good story, it's always excellent to watch. So, big fan of those. Okay. Now we're going to do the speed round of Fun Street, Neil. I know you're prepared for this. I know you actually were doing stretches. You were working. You're getting yourself for the speed round. This is how this is going to roll. I am going to ask you something, and I want the first thing that comes to your mind. And these are things that lift you up, that make you feel good, that motivate you, that make you thrive. You ready?
Yep. Let's do it.
A song that you love to hear or that pumps you up.
I really like the Panic at Disco version of Bohemian Rhapsody. It really, nice. For some reason, charges me up.
Favorite food that's not a dessert?
Pizza. Oh my God. Don't get me started with my better half on that one. I could eat pizza for days.
A favorite dessert?
Ice cream.
What flavor? I'll dig down a little further.
I hate to say it, but I'm sure people roll their eyes, but I love vanilla.
Yeah, you're like my dad. It's the same thing. He could go to 31 flavors and pick just vanilla all the way to do it. But anyway, an activity you wish you did more of?
I wish I could play more golf. It's kind of hard. Normally being a road warrior and now being trapped at home during the pandemic, I never get a chance to play golf like I used to.
An activity you wish you did less of?
I wish I would actually watch less TV late at night.
I like it. Neil, if I snap my fingers and you could place yourself anywhere in the world, where are you?
I'm in Antarctica, Lou, the one continent I've never been to.
Oh, very cool. I'm going to give a shout out to my good friend, Jill Schiffelbein. She, right before global pandemic, a little over a year ago, she got a chance to go. Talk about a great timing to go see it. It was amazing. Really unbelievable.
Oh, so lucky.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't know if that one's on my list, but it's definitely like one of those. Yeah, maybe.
Well, how many people can say they've been to every continent, Lou? So you got to do it.
That's a great point. Well, hopefully you'll be able to continue traveling the world soon and sharing this amazing message and helping people better understand how they can connect with AI. So, Neil, thank you so much for coming on Thrive Loud today.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Lou. I had a blast, and it was a bit thrill ride.
Absolutely, man. And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.